up in SVL free news and views for Friday, July the 27th. It's hard to believe that July is almost finished, but it's a beautiful day in downtown Statesville and Iredell County. And coming up this weekend, there's some great things to do. But let me thank our sponsors. First of all, Mitchell College, Randy Marion, Piedmont Healthcare, Blue Harbor Bank, Fast Fills, Key to Escape, The Escape Room, Statesville Family YMCA, and McDonald's of Iredell County. In fact, I'm standing on the corner here at the Key to Escape, and you need to find out more about what you can do at the Key to Escape. We'll be having a special program coming up next month here at the Key to Escape, The Escape Room. And I'm also right across from the police department, and we're going to have a special interview today with Joe Barone. But first of all, let's talk about some things that are going on this weekend in Statesville and Iredell County. Allison's Woods Outdoor Learning Center is having a 5K this Saturday. Registration opens at 7 a.m. and ends at 7:45. The race begins at 8 a.m. Promptly, it's to benefit Allison's Woods Outdoor Learning Center. They do some fabulous things at the Allison's Woods Outdoor Learning Center, teaching young folks the values of conservation and the outdoors. Also at the Iredell Museums, which is another treasure here in downtown Statesville at 134 Court Street, they're doing the tallest tower. So come out at 11 a.m. on Saturday, build a tower that won't topple using mystery museum materials during a day of learning at the museum. Programs are included, and the price of admission $5 per person for ages 3 and up. As always, members are free. Hip Hop Workshop is at the Statesville Family YMCA at 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. The dance camp will teach your children the roots of hip hop, and your child will be able to showcase their moves that they learned at the end of the session. Children 5 to 8 will attend between 9 a.m. and noon, and ages 9 and up will be from 1 to 4. So contact the Y at 704-873-9622. Archaeology Day is at Fort Dobbs Historical Site this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Archaeology is vital to the understanding of life at Fort Dobbs during the French and Indian War. Visitors will be able to view some recently discovered artifacts and even assist site staff in recovery of more as we sift through soil displaced by the fort reconstruction. Admission is free. A fee of $1 per person is required to participate in the hands-on part of the program. Aqua Zumba is at the Fitness and Activity Center at 1875 Simonton Road at the Leisure Pool. Zumba Pool Party. So it's a safe, challenging workout that's cardio, conditioning, body toning, and most of all fun. Call 704-878-3944 for more information. And finally, the second annual Cardboard Boat Regatta. I know my good friend Brian Suarez would probably want to call it the Corrugated Boat Regatta, because it's really corrugated is what they use to build the boats with. But it's a fun day. It's Sunday from 2 to 6, and go out to 160 Stumpy Creek Road. Morris will see a lot of fun going on down there. Okay, so today on the show we have Mike Fuhrman is interviewing retiring Chief Joe Barone of the City of Statesville Police Department. He gives some thoughts about the shooting that happened back at Caldwell Street in January, and what action he took to form this collaborative effort with surrounding agencies from Iredell County and also the surrounding counties to combat crime. So let's hear what Mike has to say with retiring Chief Joe Barone.
Thanks, Brian. I'm here today with Statesville Police Chief Joe Barone. Chief, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mike.
No, Chief, there was a substantial shift in how you fight crime on January 9th, 2018. That's the day that 9-year-old Shakia Jones and 2 adults were shot in a drive-by shooting on Caldwell Street. Something changed in your mind that day that said, what we're doing is not working, we need a different approach. Tell us about that.
Well, I'd received the phone call that we'd had and I'm going to use the word another shooting on Caldwell Street. So I responded, as well as my investigators. And while we were on the scene and we were processing the house, it really kind of hit me that, these drive-bys were really escalating. The amount of violence being put out there against residents was increasing. And we had taken some traditional policing approaches. When there are problems in a community, people usually ask for more police presence, and we'll take patrol officers and we'll concentrate them more in an area in order to drive that crime down. Well, as we were processing the scene, it kind of dawned on me, well, we've done all these things already. We've heard the complaints, we've seen the after effects of what was taking place, and we had placed those resources in those communities. The problem is it wasn't de-escalating, it was escalating. So I was there with one of my assistant chiefs, Chief Cornelius, and I said, you know, what we need to do is we really need to kind of rethink what we're doing. What I'd like to see happen, and I want it to happen today, I want a call to go out to surrounding agencies, because we're not the only ones dealing with this. This needs to be more of a collaborative effort of addressing violent crime. I want the call to go out for anybody surrounding Statesville to send some representatives to a meeting I want to have that afternoon on the 9th. Kenny had made those phone calls, and when we were done processing the scene, upon my return to the police department, I had a conference room full of representatives from surrounding agencies, and not only did surrounding agencies come, but I had representatives there from ALE, from the SBI, from ATF. Everybody put out their support to addressing this problem, because it wasn't only a Statesville problem, and everybody realized that we were dealing with some of the same individuals who was causing the same havoc in other areas.
So your message to that group is, hey, what we've been doing here isn't working. I'd like to try a new regional approach, and I want you all on board.
Yeah, I want everybody on board, because if it benefits us, if we're dealing with the same people, and it benefits my citizens, by taking those same people off the street, it benefits your citizens too.
Mm-hmm. So the Violent Crime Collaborative was formed out of that first meeting, and now we're 6 months out. You've had a chance to look at the data. What can you say about violent crime in the 6 months since then?
Well, the data shows, as well as public feedback, that violent crime has decreased in Statesville, and the charts show it. You know, we kind of peaked right around December, early January, where we were having just call after call after call after call for either shots fired or for somebody being shot. And once the collaborative took effect, and we started making headway into looking at directed enforcement, and that's not a shotgun effect, but we had this particular crime. We took that crime, we sat down as a collaborative, and we said, okay, what do we know about this? Is there anything that stands out to the group that you may have seen in your jurisdiction that will help us get started in a direction of who is responsible for this? And it was amazing once everybody sat around a big conference table and they felt free to share what they knew. And once that sharing began, we were very quickly able to identify potential suspects in these cases. And it was actually a break that we got with the Davie County Sheriff's Department, where they were working a case and they were sharing some information with us. And they said, you know, we believe that we may have a mutual suspect in a case that we're working. And from there, it kind of really took some momentum. A lot of suspects were developed from various cases, not only here, but again, surrounding Statesville. And once those arrests were made, targeted, you know, enforcement, once those arrests were made, in addition to putting those patrol officers in those neighborhoods, we saw the shots fired calls plummet. And the data shows that. It went from, this was almost a daily, sometimes 2 and 3 in one day, down to now we go sometimes for weeks, and we might get, you know, a shots fired call, and usually it turns out to be fireworks, or one of the more recent ones we get is people don't realize in the city limits you can't target practice in your backyard.
Right. Right.
So you know, we went from where every time one of those calls came in, we usually associated with somebody getting hit, to now when we respond, the officers, they're still vigilant about the response, but they're relieved when they get there and they find out, well, it's fireworks or it's somebody target practicing, and then we could deal with that appropriately.
So we look at the graphs here that show the shots fired calls, and it looks like you had a peak in December,
Right.
which would be the month before the collaborative, and then as you go month to month after that, you see a steady decrease all the way through the spring, and you have a little increase there in May. But I'll point out it's an increase from 2 to 3,
Yeah.
whereas back in December, I think the number was 11. And then we look at the gunshot calls with a victim with
Right.
gunshot wounds. I think these were back in the fall. It seemed like there were people on mopeds and scooters
They were.
getting shot back in the fall. And then in January, this would be the Caldwell Street shooting, which you had 3 victims.
Right.
And then in February, you go to 0. And then you have 1 in March, which is the Fiesta Rodeo
Right.
shooting where you made some arrests in that case. And then in June, you have Officer Horn
Right.
being shot as well.
So really between, March and June, we had 1 incident that involved the public, and that in and of itself was, mostly people from out of town. And then we had Officer Horn.
But in all 3 of those cases, you've made multiple arrests.
We have. We've got, collectively, since the collaborative has been together, we've made 29 individual arrests of 29 individuals from what the data is showing me.
So there are 2 conclusions you could draw. One would be that you had a small group of people, maybe it's 29, maybe it's fewer, maybe a few more, who were causing a lot of problems, and now they're all in custody.
Correct.
And not causing problems. Or maybe you had a few other people who were involved who've decided, well, maybe Statesville's not the best place to be involved in this type of activity.
And I would like to emphasize that if people don't cause problems in Statesville, I'm not encouraging people to go cause problems anyplace else. Don't cause them at all, but don't cause them here. If it's violent crime, the collaborative is here, and we pay attention to every report that we receive from the public when it comes to violence in Statesville. And if there is violence in Statesville, and this goes to the viewers, if you're responsible for it, eventually we're going to look at that case and we're going to come get you. As you can see, those that have been involved in a lot of these crimes, we have done very targeted enforcement on them. All the resources that I have is going into violent crime. There are other crimes that take place, from property crimes, etc. And we do address those with the proper resources, but the collaborative itself focuses almost exclusively on violence. If you commit violence, then you get our attention with the collaborative.
So, a lot of people would ask, what's been driving this violent crime? Is it drug related? What are the underlying? I think we like to think as a society that people don't just wake up today and say, I'm going to shoot somebody because I'm violent. There's something that's motivating that.
There is. There's drugs, there's power, and then there's the root of all evil, and it's money. And crimes are committed for vices, and a lot of those vices are rooted to money.
And drugs being related, it's a source of money.
It is. It's either a source of money or it's a source of an income of money, where they get people hooked on those drugs, and then those people go out and they commit these crimes in order to repay those debts.
So as you've seen a decline in the violent crimes, at least anecdotally, are you seeing a decrease in the property crimes, drug offenses, those sort of things?
In some areas. Again, property crimes are sometimes not related necessarily to violence. So a lot of our focus has been on violent crime. We have recently, and it's not something that we've formed an official collaborative over, but one of the next areas that we want to focus on, because we know that Statesville does have a higher rate of property crime, and looking at addressing property crime the way we've addressed violent crime. And that's in its infantile stages. It was something we discussed at a CompStat meeting probably about 2 weeks ago. Because the data did show that although it's really not increasing, at the same time, it's not really decreasing, and I want to see a decrease in a lot of different areas as we move forward.
So if you think back to December, January, which I think we agree was kind of the height of this violence, you know, people were scared. Mm-hmm. They were very concerned about how safe their neighborhood was. You know, if someone's child can be shot in their home on Caldwell Street, well, my child can be shot in my home on this street.
Sure.
And I'm sure you've got a lot of feedback.
Oh, yes.
At that time. Has the community been instrumental in solving some of these cases? And I would think once somebody gives you information and you make an arrest, they're more likely to give you information again.
Yes, and it is. It's truly a collaborative, not only of agencies, but a collaborative with members of the public. Because without members of the community coming forward and taking that leap of faith and providing us with information, sometimes physical evidence only goes so far. And evidence will take us to a point in a case, and sometimes, although it's good evidence, it's not enough for me to kind of move on. And it takes that community member coming forward and giving me that key to a lock that kind of opens a new door and allows me to explore different avenues. So yes, it is not only a collaborative between agencies. We've developed really a collaborative with members of the public who have been instrumental in this. The hard work of the detectives, the hard work and the sacrifice of other agencies, because when they provide folks to come to the collaborative, they're sacrificing personnel. Those personnel are coming, they're spending time here in Statesville, and they're helping us address a need that we've had for a long time. So it's been hard work between the detectives, those other agencies, and members of our community and members of those other agencies' communities. You know, those who have participated, they've gotten information from members in their community that have opened doors here in Statesville for us.
So clearly this seems like a successful strategy. Is this something other agencies now are coming to you and saying, how can I implement this in my own community?
I have. I've had some that have reached out and wanted to see how successful this was going to be, and we understand change is hard, and as a law enforcement community, you know, we sometimes have a problem sharing, and this collaborative really took a change in culture, and it was to sit down with folks that at the beginning I didn't know, but today they're family. I mean, they've been with me long enough where I know their name, their wife's name, their children's name, and everything about them. And sharing, there's a trust there where we can share in a room and we know it goes no further, that it's kept within the community. But other agencies have reached out. They wanted to see how effective this was going to be and whether it would be maintainable. And I think we've pleasantly surprised a lot of folks. You know, we've been able to impact violent crime in a way that we've never been able to do that in the past. And it's been sustainable. You know, these agencies have committed, and they've reinforced that commitment by coming every day.
Okay, Chief, well, thank you for taking the time to sit down with us today and for sharing this good news with us.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming out here. I like sharing the good news.
Thank you.
Okay, so there you have it. A very informative interview with retiring Chief Joe Barone with Mike Fuhrman. So we wish him the well as in his years of service here in Statesville and Iredell County. Okay, so there you have it. Hope you guys are getting ready for a great weekend. And we're going to have Bud Welch as our featured interview on Monday talking about the Carolina Balloon Fest. So there you go. If you haven't done it already, sign up at SVL Free News and Views to get your email edition of SVL Free News every morning at 5 a.m. So you guys go out there and have a great time this weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.